Good morning, and thank you for joining me for today's midweek reflection. Tomorrow marks the day which Christians remember all around the world as the feast of the commemoration of the faithful departed, better known to most Christians simply as All Souls' Day. They say, don't they, that death is the last great taboo of our times. In the 21st century, it is perhaps the only thing, the one thing that people really don't want to talk about. And yet, physical death is one of the most simple, great, fundamental realities of our existence. Benjamin Franklin, of course, famously said that nothing was ever certain except death and taxes. I think it's also worth saying that at some point over the last 100 years or so, most of us have become more and more isolated from physical death. It's possible in our times to be alive for quite a few years without really having any encounter of death amongst those around us. And often when death does happen, it's sort of sanitized. It happens away from us somewhere. It's over there in a hospital or a hospice or a care home, places that we might ordinarily have no reason to go to most of the time. And yet it was different, so different, for our grandparents and our great-great-grandparents. Many of them would have lost siblings very early on in life, and therefore they would have become used to the idea of grieving right from a very, very early stage. And then when death did come, it was very physically close to them. It happened there in the house. And so when Granny or Grandpa or Auntie Ethel was facing death, everybody knew it because the wider family was all gathered around them in the days and weeks before it actually happened. I think that what I want to say is simply that the more that we can talk about death, the more it can enter into our everyday conversation, the less capacity it has to frighten us, to be this kind of great bogeyman. And of course, for Christians, there's a much, much bigger dimension to all of this, because the Bible speaks so powerfully and so strongly of a time when all will be reunited through the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So I think on this All Souls' Day, I think I'd say to you, do really try to just take a moment. Take a moment to remember those whom you love and yet see no longer. And many people do find it useful to do something physical. So if there is a gravestone relatively nearby, take some flowers and place them. But if that's not possible, just buy some flowers and put them in a little vase and put that on the windowsill. Or even the very simple act, the ancient act of lighting a candle in remembrance. These things can be so effective. And as you do so, please, please remember this. Jesus says to us all that the Father gives me will come to me, and they who come to me, I will never cast out. Our hymn for today is Lord of All Hopefulness.